consider this a professional courtesy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Welcome to Wednesday, everyone. We've got a couple of updates to how you can consume the show, so we'll cover that in a second. Before we do, though, let's talk about just the general way to reach out. The best way is through the website. Head on over to therebelbroker.com. From there, you can send along any ideas, suggestions, or observations that you might have. Anything bouncing around in your head that you'd like to chat about, feel free to share it there. Just click on Contact in the menu bar, send along all the information that you'd like to send, and I'll get back to you. Of course, you can also consume the show there. There's a player right there at the front page. You can join the Rebel Underground, which is another way to get information above and beyond what you'll get here on the show. And there is another way to get to the show. It's kind of interesting. It's through Google tools. If you use Google Assistant, for instance, you have Google Home, you're using Google Assistant on Android 6.0 or greater phones, or iOS 10.0 or greater devices, or on your Chromebook. You can now speak to those devices and simply say, listen to Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker, or play the latest episode of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker, and it'll find me, and it'll start playing for you. So feel free to check that out. I'm kind of anxious to give it a try. I just activated it yesterday. So I'm kind of interested to give it a try myself, but I haven't. I finally got the thing all going, and I'm anxious to see what folks think of it. And if it ends up being a great way for folks to consume the show, then great, fantastic. Now, I had promised everyone a fantastic show today. I was going to deliver on the home union results of the top 20 zip codes for real estate investing. And I was astonished to realize that the release of this data that I had saved was for some reason a regurgitated press release from last year. So it was last year's numbers, which obviously we would have talked about way back in August of last year. So unfortunately, I don't have their new data yet. They haven't published their new data. So unfortunately, I don't have that for you. But I really liked the idea of, at this point in the year, going with somebody's estimations. So I ran over to the wondrous internet and found a kind of an estimation of where you should be investing for 2018, coming from realtybiznews.com. Their title of the article is Top 10 Cities for Real Estate Investment in 2018. So we'll go ahead and review those. I find it very interesting. There's a couple of overall things that I kind of notice about this list that we can talk about that are a little bit shocking, and maybe not a little bit shocking for some folks. Maybe a little bit of a disappointing list for folks on the West Coast, but it's always good to get a feel for what different organizations are saying in terms of great places to invest. Now, the criteria that these folks used to come up with this list was they all either have high opportunity for growth, high cap rates, a healthy job market, or a healthy mix of the factors. They give us the top 10. We'll go ahead and just run down the list and run down some of their interesting numbers. And then maybe we'll take a little time out towards the end of the show to pick one of these communities and really focus in on it and get some real numbers. Let's do a search. Let's see what homes are selling for and get an idea of what homes are renting for in those same neighborhoods. And we'll use our bread and butter number assumptions, right? And what are those? As an investor, what you're looking for typically is at least a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. In my marketplace, that is what everyone wants. Now, keep in mind that markets are different in different areas. You may find in some downtown areas or some areas that are very focused on college students, those types of things, that there's absolutely niche markets for other types of properties. For instance, 2-bedroom, 2-bath properties. Typically, I think that's the nicest fit in terms of straddling those things, is if you want to go down to a 2-bedroom. And I know in my marketplace, you can tend to find really good deals on 2-bedroom properties compared to other options. even in situations where the square footage is the same. So let's say you've got a 1,200 square foot home that's 2 bedrooms and a 1,200 square foot that's 3 bedrooms, same number of bathrooms. You'll always find that the 2 bedrooms are going to go for quite a bit less, simply because of the desirability, right? The folks are thinking 3 bedrooms by and large. So there's just less people out there usually to buy in that particular size. All right, so let's go ahead and hit this list. We'll run down how they describe it and then maybe offer some observations of my own. Number 1 on their list is Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville topped the list for its reasonable median home price of around $232,000, but high appreciation rate with cap rates at a healthy 7.2%. Jacksonville is a great place to invest. Their beaches, urban parks, and emerging social scene ensure people all want to move there for years to come. I'm a little bit more hesitant on Florida properties. I think I'm more hesitant towards southern Florida properties. So this would clearly be falling into a different category. But I think it's absolutely reasonable. There's that particular price that they're talking about in terms of median is almost to the point where I would argue, whenever I have this conversation with you, I like to point out places that this price is on average below the national average. Because remember, that barrier to entry of price can be a tough one for a lot of folks to break. So it's always good to focus on areas where you can potentially get into an investment with as little as possible, because then you can leverage off of that. And perhaps that helps you be capable in the future of buying into a larger market where the returns might be a little bit better for not a whole lot more expenditure in terms of price per unit. All right, so that's number 1 on their list. Number 2 on their list is Raleigh, North Carolina. This is not the first time we've talked about Raleigh. Raleigh has shown up on a lot of lists over the years, and because it has that familiarity, I think it gives us some insights into the dependability of Raleigh. I think Raleigh is probably a lot more of a stable marketplace where you can move in there and feel comfortable with a longer history of stability. But also, if I'm not mistaken, Raleigh was not hit that hard by the downturn. It was relatively a small blip. So I think that gives it a little bit more of a comfort factor in terms of folks who might be concerned about a upcoming downturn that they can weather it as well as they possibly can. Now, Raleigh's combination of high growth rate, high job growth rate, and relatively affordable median home prices, which is at $278,300, make it a great buy. Rental vacancies are at a low 4.3% because of its thriving job market. So investors are sure to see a high ROI. And that's something else I like about Raleigh. I have friends who've moved to Raleigh for business reasons or for work reasons. They've got some very interesting growth in high tech and other areas around Raleigh. So it also has a diverse enough economy there that potentially one area could get hit and it doesn't take down the whole market, right? I'm always hesitant to suggest areas for investment where it's really a one market city, where if something was bad to happen to one marketplace, it could really negatively affect the entire city. Number 3, Columbus, Ohio, another one that's been on several lists. Columbus, Ohio has a median home price of $200,000, which is one of the most affordable on our list. Those who invest are sure to see appreciation quickly, though, as their combination of growing population and robust job market are sure to ramp those prices up. Employers like Honda, Nationwide Insurance, JP Morgan Chase are headquartered there with no plans on moving. Next, Charlotte, North Carolina. Remember, we just talked about Raleigh, North Carolina. Now we have Charlotte. And Charlotte should ring a bell because we've actually had interviewed folks on this show who had their investments in Charlotte. We've talked about how good that market is and how folks have grown their market there. Now, Charlotte's onslaught of new restaurants and attractions has drawn visitors and those looking for a new, exciting place to live. Cap rate is 6.8%, meaning return on investment is strong. Median home prices are about $234,400, making it affordable right now. Number 5, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, another one that's appeared on other lists we've reviewed here on the show. Solid job growth ranking and cap rates that reflect the demand for homes. Cooler temperatures and big city amenities offered here continue to attract more and more people every year. The average home price of $259,000 means it's an optimal time to invest. Next, Atlanta, Georgia, another one that has been on tons of lists and another one where we have talked to folks on the show who have made great advancements in terms of their investments by investing in properties in Atlanta. Low median home price of $204,900 assures that these homes can be acquired at a reasonable price. It's unlikely to stay that way forever, according to these folks, as its job market recovers and buyer confidence grows. It's the perfect time to grab some real estate there. Number 7, Orlando, Florida. A healthy job market and rapidly growing population. Orlando is a solid place to invest, posting some of the highest gains in the U.S. during 2017. Home values in Orlando are expected to continue to rise. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, another one that's been on our list before. Incredibly low median home price of $160,200. Solid population growth gives it one of the highest cap rates on our list, 8.4%. Demand for homes is rising as the city's revitalization takes place. So now is a great time to get in on the deal. Number 9, Cincinnati, Ohio. Low median home price and rapid growth give it an extremely high cap rate of 9.4%. With a still low median home price of $168,600, it's in a similar boat as Oklahoma City as it bounces back from the recession. Number 10, Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm thinking that's been on several of our lists. I'm not 100% sure. Lower job and population growth than some other cities. High cap rates and rapidly appreciating home values put it on the list. It's relatively low cost of living. Means it's a great place to live or invest. Now, according to this article there, just to read their comment on methodology, they took the top 100 most populated cities in the U.S. and ranked them according to cap rate, job growth ranking, population growth percent, and single family home price. And then they assigned points for each rank in the category. What I would like to do next is let's go ahead and jump in and let's take a look at the highest cap rate that we saw that was also below 200,000. So let's go ahead and go with Oklahoma City, and we'll take a closer look at that. They had a median home price of $160,200 with a cap rate of 8.4%. So when we come back, we're going to make an effort to take a little bit of a closer look at Oklahoma City and see what deals we can find. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner-broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, we are running down a quick list of the top 10 cities for real estate investing, according to one outfit. And it's always good to do that. And I'd suggest people check out all those sorts of lists, and particularly pay attention to the methodologies to see if they fit with things you feel are important to fit with your investment strategies. And today we ended up landing on Oklahoma City for two reasons. A relatively high return on investment of 8-point-something%, according to these folks, but also a low barrier to entry, where the average price was about $160,000 a year, or $160,000 for a home. And it's a great way to jump in and start seeing if this would make sense for you. All right. So my suggestion, whenever you're going to do this kind of thing, and this is something we've talked about a few times over the last few years, head on over to Trulia. I think it provides a really good set of tools for you to be able to estimate whether or not an investment makes sense. And I always start off with the homes to sell in that city. I put 3 beds. I always want to have at least 2 baths in that scenario. And that's really it. That's the bread and butter. If someone, see, and this is going to cover both of your interests, right? Whether you are a flipper or you are a buy, hold, and rent person, or a buy, hold, rent, then sell person, this is going to satisfy that level of search. Why? Most people who are renting, looking for that 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Most people who are buying, and as a real estate agent, I can tell you 90% of the time when I'm asking someone what I need to put in terms of their search, what's part of most searches is 3+ bedrooms, 2+ bathrooms. There's often other little things, but that's always at the core. So I like to start there because, of course, we're trying, unless you are someone who has really discovered a niche, and this is likely to be someone who's been doing this a little bit longer, or maybe you feel like you've really discovered a niche. Maybe there is some sort of a community that's near you where you really feel like this 2-bedroom, 2-bath thing really works in a niche way and you can get in on it without breaking the bank. Great. But you are someone who has discovered a demand in a smaller market where maybe other people aren't catering to it, so you're going to cater to it. If you're someone who wants to get in there with the largest number of potential consumers, this is the strategy you're probably going to want to go with. All right, so here we are, and I'm sitting here looking at Trulia, and we have Oklahoma City dead center on my screen. My first move whenever I do something like this is I click on the little crime button, and I want to see the heat map of the most crime plagued areas, the darker places, the places I want to avoid in general. And let's see here. And I'm zooming in, and I'm seeing plenty of opportunities that are not in areas with lots of crime. And you'll notice as you do this sort of thing with Trulia that they're only going to show you. They'll say they are showing in terms of the green dots of properties that are available for sale. In this case, I'm seeing 189 out of 1,250. I'm zoomed in pretty strongly here to Oklahoma City, so that tells me there's an awful lot of inventory here to choose from, which is something else you're going to want to use to assess markets. When you see large clusters of pins, that is unusual. You may want to try to figure out why that is. But now I'll usually, when I get to this level where I'm zoomed in a little bit and I'm seeing a good number of properties listed, I always like to start with downtown for areas I'm not familiar with. And this should be a staged thing for you right now. What's interesting here is I'm seeing almost nothing in the area of Oklahoma City, right, that I would think would be absolute downtown. Now, I see an area called Central Oklahoma City, which has a few listings in it. The area down closer to the 40 freeway, I'm seeing a cluster of 5 over to the east end, where the 235 and the 40, the 35, 235, 40 meet. Interesting clusters I may want to look at later, but I'm not seeing a whole lot right downtown. And that could simply be reflective of the idea that there aren't many 3+ bedroom properties down there. Remember, at this point, I have not put any price limitation. I'm just trying to get a feeling for it. And as I look through Midtown, I'm seeing a 4-bedroom, 5-bath, 2,900 square foot home for $998,000. And this one is right in the middle of a crime area, or at least an area that's rated as much higher crime than many other areas. What else am I saying? I'm seeing one for over $1 million in that same general area, 3-bed, 3-bath, 3,100 square feet. 3-bed, 2-bath, 479,000. So I'm seeing in these areas that there's absolutely some high priced properties, that the Midtown area clearly has some draw. And as I start just now looking in other areas, there's a little bit of a higher density where there is really no crime to speak of. 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,626 square foot home, $474,000. 1.1 million in the exact same neighborhood, 1.1 million in the same neighborhood. Same neighborhood just down the street, 549,000, 3-bed, 3-bath. Now you're trying to get a feel for areas that have some prices that make sense to you. So you can just drag over these areas and it'll pop up with what the price is. So as soon as I get over to the area just northwest of Central Oklahoma City, I start to see some stuff that sounds possible. I see a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, just shy of 3,000 square feet for $269,000. I see a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $169,000. I see a 3-bedroom, 2-bath at $193,000. So I'm starting to get into an area where I feel pretty confident that these might be worth looking at. So let's go ahead and look at the one that is $169,000. Now, in the case of this property, this is 2815 Northwest 20th Street in Oklahoma City. And then as I check out the crime map for this specific property, I find it's not horrible. It's a block away from an area that's kind of dicey, but not the worst. It's in an area that's slightly elevated, but not horribly. And whenever I'm focusing on this stuff, I will zoom in to the highest level to see if I can get any details, because what there will be is little black circles that will have a number in them about the number of police calls. And as I zoom in, there are none. So that's comforting. I like that. The nearest ones are quite a ways away with issues like, let's see, things I don't even understand. Drive, inflation, no, something. It looks like someone didn't have their driver's license. So actually not even that bad. So far, so good. I like the looks of this. In terms of the map in general, get a broad view here. Looks like fairly reasonable commute potentially if folks are looking to get to other jobs. It's a few blocks away from the 44 freeway. It's just down the street from Oklahoma City University. I like it. Okay, so let's take a look now. What I'll usually do here is open up another window. I will open up a rental window, zoomed into the exact same area. Now, you can use crossroads of major freeways or names of local areas. This one happens to be in an area called Millam Place, and I've managed to zoom in on both now, so I can see what things are renting for. Now, again, in my rental screen, I'm going to go ahead and do minimum of 3 beds. I'm going to do 2 baths or more. And what I'm seeing are 3-bed, 2-bath properties. I'm also going to get in mind what the square footage is. The subject property has square footage of 1,424 square feet. I'm looking at the photo of the front, and it looks pretty nice. It looks like probably the garage is in the back. But what we want to do here is focus on, in this case, just single-family homes. So I'll change it to single-family homes as well. And within the exact same area, I'm seeing a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $1,195 is what that's the asking rent is. But it has 400 more square feet, which may not be an issue. Variations in square footage, I find, oftentimes aren't going to be a huge detriment in terms of what you can get for rent. Other homes in the area, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I'm seeing another one for $1,300. I'm seeing another one for $1,100 with the exact same square footage. And then I see another one with about the same square footage for $750. But it's also very clear that this particular property is not as well appointed as the home I would purchase. The home I would purchase looks freshly remodeled. And that's what's great about doing something like this with Trulia. It's got a fully remodeled kitchen, brand new granite countertops. I mean, it's a beautiful property that looks ready to go. And of course, because I'm on Trulia, I'm able to go in here and take a look at these and get detailed views. I can even get detailed views of the rental property. There's usually fewer property photos for a rental like this, but I can already see that this is a very poorly maintained home compared to the subject property. So let's go ahead and move forward on this property with an assumption that we would be able to get, this is what, asking $1,195. Let's go ahead and assume that we'd be able to get $1,300, $1,250 to $1,300 for this particular property. So at this point, what I want to know is what's going to be the numbers look. What do the numbers look like? Now remember, we're not doing anything funky with the list price. The list price is $169.9. It's down from $175. We're going to talk about that in a second. But what we're going to do is use a tool I have called Property Evaluator. There's plenty of tools online. If you're a member of, if you're a subscriber to Bigger Pockets, they've got an online calculator that you can input all this information in. But let's go ahead and assume we pay full price for it. Not going to happen, but let's pretend that we do. $169.9. Let's assume we put 20% down. That means we'd have to come up with $33,980. And assuming that it's going to cost us $3,398 in costs to buy it. So the escrow fees, all that other kind of wonderful stuff. We assume our gross rent per month is going to be $1,300 a month with a vacancy loss of 8%. Now, I would guess from this marketplace that is high. I would probably guess that is double the real vacancy rate. So let's go ahead and take that down to 5%, which gives us a monthly amortized rate of negative $65, assuming that is correct. Now, I like to take 0.25% per month and put it aside for repair stuff, right? So in this case, that would be about $35 a month. Insurance would be about $71. Taxes I'm putting as $142, and I'm going to guess that that's going to be high. Why? Because I'm using 1%, and my guess is that that's not going to be what it is. It's probably going to be less than that. But that gives us total operating costs of $248, not including the payment for the mortgage. And the net operating income after we subtract everything in terms of mortgage payments. The mortgage payment is going to be $730 a month. Net operating cost is going to be $248, which gives us cash flow of $258 per month. In terms of comparing that to the amount of money we have invested. Now, remember, this is where you want to have the discussion about utility. Right now, out of your pocket, you've got $37,378 wrapped up in this. So it's all about what are you getting for having lost the use of that money. The cap rate on the purchase price is 7%. The cap rate on market value is 6.8%. And the cash on cash return is 8.3%. Now, I use this tool to do some other things, to do some projections, to project a vacancy rate, income inflation rate, expense inflation rate, appreciation rate, all those kinds of wonderful things, to do long-term projections. But all in all, that is not horrible for the amount of money that you have invested. Now, let's say you're doing this manually, and let's go ahead and just take that $258 and in a manual way, because you can absolutely do this in a spreadsheet. There's no reason for you to spend money on a tool like I've done. You can absolutely do this in a spreadsheet where you just calculate these various items. And the math can be very easy. Once you've gone through figuring out what your expenses would be, what it's going to cost you to hold on to the property, and you need to make sure you're calculating for everything, potential repairs, insurance, taxes, all that kind of wonderful stuff. Assume we go with that $258 positive cash flow per month after you subtract all the costs. That would give us $3,096 a year that this property is giving us in terms of profit. If we then divide that by the amount of money we have into the property, that then gives us 8.28 or 8.3% return on investment per year. Now, that's pretty good, right? There are plenty of places people invest where anything above 8% would be considered super sexy. Anything over 5%, you know, for those of you who have been doing some very safe level investing, you know that that's a pretty respectable number. Now, here is where we start to get a little creative. We've already discovered that our worst case scenario is positive cash flow for us and in excess of 8%. Well, now let's get a little bit more negotiation minded, right? So I look at this listing and I see, all right, well, it was over $5,000 more than this. So the price has been dropped. In terms of days on market, it's been on the market for 112 days. It's a good-looking property. I'm not seeing anything about it. It's got a bit of a janky fence between it and the property next door. But I'll tell you what, I'd be willing to go ahead and replace that fence for $400 if that's what it would cost me. Everything looks really good. So where would we go with this? Well, first, what I would do is potentially make an offer. Now, I know that sounds nuts, but remember, an offer is not binding until you've done your due diligence, until you've done your research. So let's say you are comfortable enough with this that you want to write this offer. You feel like you can rent this house for positive cash flow as is. The next thing is to figure out what should your offer be for. Now, my feeling is that this home, given the amount of time it's been on the market, given its current asking price, my guess is that it is not going to sell for its asking price. So where do you come in? You can, at this point, you may want to talk to a real estate person in that local marketplace. I would suggest you interview several to figure out who fits with you. But I don't think I would offer more than, say, $150 for this property. I'd want to get more ground truth before I'd make that offer. But let's go ahead and change the purchase price to $150,000, and let's see what that gets us. Well, it does a good thing in that it brings our total cash flow per month up to $372 per month. And suddenly that cash on cash return is sitting at a lovely 13.5%. So over 10%. with the cap rate based on market value is the same as 7.9 and 8.1 for purchase price versus market value. But these are great numbers. I would be very happy with return on investment numbers at this level with this property. So what would be next? I think if I was really serious about this marketplace, I'd come up with 3 more properties that fit the bill, that where the math works on this, and plan on doing a trip. Now, if let's say you're super excited, go ahead and make offers on these properties. Talk to a local real estate person to submit these offers for you. Do these offers, see what gets accepted. If you can get stuff accepted at levels that make sense to you, just say, that it's contingent on a physical inspection of the property because you've never been there, right? If you were concerned that these were going to go anywhere, I wouldn't be horribly concerned. If this was me seriously looking at this marketplace, I would be planning a trip over the next weekend to go and take a look at these places. But have several in mind in case for some reason one of them does end up selling. If you really want to make sure they're locked up, make an offer. And on the one that you find most promising, go and take a look, drive the area, get some market truth, take a look at the area to make sure that it fits with your strategy, talk to an agent, and maybe have them show you a few more properties while you're there. And then once you've done that and you've satisfied your physical inspection, you can either move forward and go through the process. You've already got the property locked down in an offer. Maybe you decide you offered too much. Maybe you decide it'll still work, but your offer is too high. That's one reason why I usually don't like to make offers sight unseen. If I make offers sight unseen, they're usually really aggressively low. And if they get accepted, that blows me away. But usually what happens is I get a response, right? There's a counter to it. So that can be a process you can work through as well. But in the end, getting it into an agreed price range through that process of negotiation back and forth can also work extremely well for you. And if you're being aggressive, remember that we've talked about this before. You make your money when you buy the property, not when you sell it, particularly if you're doing obviously buy and rent. So doing that process, if you make an offer and they simply accept it, maybe that's a sign that you should have offered a little bit less. But in a situation like this, if I was doing this and doing it from a distance and potentially trying to get into a contract prior to ever even physically visiting, I would lowball it even lower than that 150. My guess is if I was to do this, I might come in at say 125, and then they would counter. And if we ended up somewhere around 150, which I think would be reasonable, these are the kind of numbers we'd be talking about. And who knows, you may even be able to shave a few more thousand off of that projected price. But now remember, these are all skills you can use anywhere. This isn't just something you need to use in Oklahoma City. These will apply wherever you're shopping. All right, folks. Thanks again for listening. I truly hope we've left you with some great nuggets of wisdom for you to use in your own real estate business. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to y'all next time.